This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for products, and fowlibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists, as well as our guest lecturer members King Pearlshine, Vite Ramen, Mognite, and Darren Noblock. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers. Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast. It's Office Hours featuring myself, DMO73, and I'm joined as always by Mike Rance and Paul Reisman.
I'm built like a baked bean.
I don't know where to go from there.
A baked bean.
He's really feeling the spring break vibes today. Anyway, welcome to Spring Break Office Hours here. We are going to be jumping into just kind of recapping some of the upcoming events, as well as just kind of having an open table night, chill night, talk about FoW, because why not? It's spring break. Let's have a good time. Just a few things before we get started. As always, if you like what we're doing, want to consider supporting the channel financially, you can click that join button down below to join the channel as a member. You can also consider just subscribing and sharing out the videos and liking it and feeding the algorithm that is YouTube. We appreciate that as well.
Yummy algorithm.
Yeah. Good old ABC algorithm boosting comment, as Todd always puts on pretty much every video. So we are here to talk about, we've got actually quite a few upcoming events in the coming month.
Why don't you tell us about them, Jeremy?
Yeah, for sure. Not only here in the United States, but also a lot of the European GPs are also coming up soon. So I'm very curious to see what comes out of that. I know that we have the one in Germany. I believe there's also the one in France, and I think one in Spain coming up, all within the month of April. And then we also have, if you haven't already seen the information for it, the next online GP for here in the United States with Discord is on April 15th and 16th, being hosted by Games and Geek. So that's in 3 weeks. So be sure to tune in for that. We will be streaming it here, but you can go onto fowtcg.com, click on the events tab, and you can find the registration link for that. Because we want to get people signed up for that. We had 60, what was it? How many people last time? Was
68.
Over 70? 68? So we'd love to have, even more this time around for this next event, which is pretty sick. And then the biggest thing is this coming weekend is the April Ruler School kind of Discord exhibition, the first of hopefully many.
The Discordathon.
That we will be running on April 2nd and 3rd. And it's your chance to win one of these playmats for top 8 that are literally never going to be printed ever again. There's going to be 8 of them for top 8, including a champion mat, and then never again are these going to be printed. So, ta-da! This is what it looks like. Look at that Moonchild
Put it on
playmat.
the screen.
It's on the screen.
It's
so
somewhere.
It's just covering all of us, so
okay.
They don't even see your pointing. Yeah. So this is the playmat we'll be giving away for that, as well as entry. Every entry will get you 5 prize wall points for FoWFest. Whatever your next FoWFest attendance that you're arriving towards, it is designed to be a fundraiser for FoWFest. So be sure to check that out. And of course, FoWFest 3 is already in the works. We've talked about this before. First and second, yes, is April 1st and 2nd. That's the whole point, because it's April Fool's Day, but it's an actual tournament. It's going to be full Wanderer format, no cheesy format to go with April 1st.
No, nobody asked me to make a format.
Sorry. FoWFest is going to happen the last weekend of October this year. It's going to be Friday evening. Is going to be side events, hangout, and the cosplay contest. The pricing for the cosplay contest is kind of partially still in the works, but whoever the winner is, we are going to make into a custom promo that we are going to give away first to the winner, so they have most of the year to be able to use it just as themselves as the winner, and then at next year's FoWFest you will be able to obtain the previous year's winners proxy ruler.
Thank you,
promo.
Eris.
So yeah, so be on the lookout for that. That we are looking forward to making people into cards for the cosplay contest. So
Seal your soul into
excited
this
for that.
card, Yugi boy.
Pretty much. I do want to also say that you can look on Facebook. The information is there to be able to reserve your hotel. The hotel block for FoW Fest is currently open. You can book your hotel directly through the Radisson there, where the event is going to be at a discounted rate. And keep in mind that you do not get charged for that until you actually show up on site. So it doesn't even put a hold on your credit card. You can just literally put in the reservation and be good to go, which is just something for people to know. Because the sooner we fill up the room block, the more of a room block we can get. We can expand the room block further based on getting more people filled in. So you should check that out. So yeah, Friday night's going to be the cosplay contest, hangout, side events, all kinds of fun stuff. Saturday is the main event and more side events. And then Sunday is Top Cut and more side events. Because we run FoW Fest from like 10 a.m. till midnight on Saturday and Sunday. We have the hotel reserved for that long. We're going to use it for that whole amount of time.
Paid for the whole hotel. I'm going to use the whole hotel.
Yeah. One of the big things for people to note about FoW Fest is that we are shifting things a little bit. I just want to be fully transparent with everybody. And so we can have a conversation about this too, is we're shifting how insanely deep the prizing goes into standings. So it's not going to be quite through like top 68, top 64 like it was before. It's probably going to be shifted down to, more towards top 32, then top 16, stuff like that. Especially if we can shift FoW Fest into being a GP, like it's not going to be heavily shifted, because we're trying to shift more of the prizing towards the side events with the prize wall. And the purpose for that, to be perfectly transparent, is to then make FoW Fest very self-sustaining. Because primarily I like talking business. Primarily the event registrations are used to pretty much cover the venue, and also pay like staff from like Odyssey Games and stuff who are helping us out. And in terms of acquiring new fancier prizing to refill the prize wall next year, by, commission the next year's playmat, all of that stuff. That's all generated by the side events, because we funnel everything. FoW Fest is just funneled right back into FoW Fest. That's the whole point of it. So we're shifting things this year, and I just want people to be aware of that, because I feel like transparency is important. So yeah, making it a GP would be baller. Yeah, I'm working on it. I got some plans. I would love
Jeremy's
to be
got
able
his
to have
connections.
I'm gonna try to flex them to turn it into a GP for sure. Play all the cube. So much cube. So yeah, that's all of that stuff. Still hope for fun raffles. Oh yeah, I always do raffles for sure. I think that's standard. Maybe we'll do bingo. Maybe I'll make bingo happen in true channeling worlds fashion. I'll just make bingo happen again. Ugh. So, hey guys,
Hey,
there is one other event that's upcoming that I haven't talked about, now that I've just spewed for the first 10 minutes of this.
my grants format?
Not my grants format. It was
unfortunate.
something that was announced by the company in a most recent YouTube video.
I am unaware of this.
Yeah, this is, and I want to talk about the event, and then the spur of the conversation is what this means and kind of how it's very different from anything FoW's done before. So for those of you who haven't seen the FoW official video, shame on you. You need to go watch it. But they've officially announced a 2-week period in April where they are going to be asking for people to submit pictures of final board states between the Gears rulers, like the Gear faction, and the Heroes faction, in order to get a special promo box topper in set 1 of the next cluster. It's either in set 1 of the next cluster or in just the next set. Where if the Heroes win, if the Heroes win more of the matches, there'll be a special promo version of Flight of the Holy Sword. And if the villains win more matches, there'll be a special promo of Leviathan Chrono Gear, Flight of the Demon Sword. And it's pretty friggin' sick. That's something that they're the war event that's what they're taking.
What if both sides win? Do we get 2 promos?
If it's a tie, maybe we get both. I mean, the amount
Let
of
me get Zeus and Typhon because ties.
yeah, just tie. That's it.
Ugh.
If we can have the entire community like coordinate, maybe we can get it to be a tie. It'd be very, very funny. But yeah, so that's like a community engagement event that we haven't really seen anything like that, to be honest, since like the Ascension campaign.
Oh yeah.
I remember the Ascension campaign.
Right. So I just want to kind of open the topic up of like, what do we think about the idea of directly engaging the community and kind of handing reins over to the community in such a big way? I'm very curious to hear what the chat thinks and as well as what you guys think.
I'm saying, how the hell did it take them this long to figure that out?
Okay, go on, continue.
Oh yeah. Anything where you can kind of just this is like the most basic, like best way to do PR like that I've seen Force will do in quite some time, because obviously we finally have the channels of communication open again. We have AG showing up in videos and really just like everybody just kind of like producing something that's like actively getting, user engagement, so to speak. And it basically turns everything into, well, we have a choice of X amount of promos that we can put out. How do we know which one to put out? But how do we know how to pick the one that we want to put out without putting out too many promos? And then it's like, here's a good idea. Let everyone else do the work, and we'll figure out the way to make it work best. And that's it. And that's marketing 101. If you can make your audience do the work for you,
okay,
which is great.
Yeah.
As somebody who works in marketing and advertising, this is just like the most basic and like well thought out way to campaign, especially for the final set of this big like heroes versus villains kind of feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Just generate word of mouth based on like a bunch of stuff on social media. Right.
And not only that, like you mentioned, word of mouth. I'm glad you brought that up, Paul, because one of the other big things that happens is that people see these long, like these big board states, and they're like, oh, that looks so cool, I want to play. And then you get somebody involved at your LGS who's got the heroes deck, and you're playing villains, and you're like, well, I'll play with you. Let's take a picture of our final board and see what happens. And then suddenly they're engaged now, and maybe somebody from another game across the things like, you guys talking about heroes versus villains? What's going on? What's this big board state going on over here? And you're like, well, it's a campaign. We're going to decide on a promo. And they're like, I want to join in that. I've never played this game in my life. I just played Magic the Gathering. And it's like, and boom, there you go. It's actually something they say in your LGS.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's
Yeah,
something
you
that
have to say that every time you draw a card from your library.
Yeah.
Rule in the CR,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, started my turn. All right. On upkeep, untap, main phase.
Goodness gracious, that's ridiculous. Paul, what were your thoughts about this?
My thoughts are, I think this is just everything Mike said, but a little bit of extra into this, right? Because I think there's something special about FoW that it kind of encourages you to roleplay because of the fact that you have an avatar that you're like, I'm an Aristella player because Aristella is the best boy, so I'm just gonna be Aristella, right? The fact that you just sort of get to like pseudo roleplay as you play a game of Force of Will, for a lot of casual people, that's really engaging and really fun. It's kind of one of the unique things about this game compared to others. So anytime you can just encourage that and get people to actually have fun with the game and show that they're having fun with the game, it's just good PR.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
I also think it gives them fuel to be able to like make use and say like, look at this massive diversity of a community that we have still currently playing, right? It gives them a weight to that with like physical evidence, right? Which is nice. It also there's something different about. They did something like this before about a we did a poll right at the beginning of the shift to Wanderer of like what are your favorite FoW cards of all time, like from each cluster. And it was like give us your, I think it was like your top 2 cards from each cluster.
Turns out each one was
that
Lorite, which is crazy.
But they, I mean, like they used that. They very clearly used that for a big part of the like current rotating format promos, like the monthly promos, like Shackles of Ice, the new Athenia, very clearly. Like there's been a lot of like these are very obviously ones that people really Susan, like Susan's not a great promo in like in terms of competitive viability nowadays, but you think of Grim Cluster, you think of MOA, the one card you remember from MOA is Susan, right? Just like everybody knows that card. So like that's a cool, like very clear connection there. The biggest kind of difference between this one and that poll is that one, it's natural engagement from people who are actively playing, right? There's a difference because the what are your favorite cards, even people who've left the game can still like put their voices into that, right? But this is saying if you want to be participating in this, you kind of need to be participating, which is a different approach to the like population you're looking at. But also the players who will benefit from this are just the people who are actively engaged, because the promo is going to be a box topper. It's not going to be an LGS distributed promo. It's just going to be included in boxes. And so that's also very cool, right? Like to even be able to say my taking a picture of playing a game with my friend and submitting it is going to have an actual impact on the next product that they are producing. Like that's cool. Like that's cool to just be able to say. And I think that's very clearly showing respect to the community and like giving them a place of honor to be able to have that influence, but also just really showing, I think, this big shift in iSpy's like approach to PR, marketing, engagement with the community as well, which I think is huge, which I think is awesome. Rustin says, I've given some thought, and while anyone could easily just submit a faked board state, there's still more fun than just making a poll. Instead, we vote with the physical cards. Yeah. I've been like, sure. You
all my cards.
You can just fake a board state, I guess, if you really want to. But you know what that means? That you probably own the cards, right? Like that you would use. Because I can't really fake a board state with an Aristella versus a Mika if I don't own an Aristella or a Mika, or I'm not going to take the time to print out proxies of Aristella and Mika and try to make them look good, right? Like there's an element of any amount of trying to cheat this system for some way, first off, isn't cheating anyone of anything. You're just still engaging in the process, and we still get a cool promo at the end of it, so good job. But B, takes a ton of effort to try to fake for some reason. Like there's almost no downside to this. I've always looked at FoW as anime battles, given how fast-paced the interactions can be with the chase and how drawn out the charging my spirit bomb moments can be when you just call Stone Pass. Listen, man. Callstone Pass? Great. Friggin' love it. Although, I'm playing a lot of Funf lately, which is Callstone Rip Your Hand Apart Pass.
I think the anime equivalent of Callstone Pass is just like you in your fighting stance and you just hearing like the wind brush through the scene and there's like tension building music in the background. That's it.
That's it. Eventually, someone's going to have to make a move.
Eventually. I also think that it's important to recognize that like if Force of Will has done so well as it has with virtually no marketing, right? Like there's been like almost no marketing for this game.
There's been no marketing for this game.
Yeah. I mean, not since like, gosh, I think it was, I want to say it was Lapis Cluster when we got the intro videos to the new clusters. That was the closest we ever got, right?
Good old Everlast. Good old missing the musical intros from Everlast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, back in the day.
That was a long time ago.
They should commission another musician to start doing songs for FoW. I don't know who that could possibly be.
I'm sorry, you're not Japanese, Mike. It's not gonna happen.
Shush.
You're Gaijin. It's not gonna happen.
Shush. Fine, I'm doing the thing.
Hey, if the Pokemon Company can hire that one guy from New York to make all of the American Pokemon in Gen 5, don't let your dreams be dreams. Okay.
If the Pokemon Company can hire Toby Fox to do half the music in Sword and Shield, they can hire me.
Yeah.
Am I saying I'm as good of a musician as Toby Fox? Yes, Megalovania is my favorite genre of music. Anyway, continue.
The company just needs to it needs to try and expand at this point, right? It just needs to try and get itself in front of other people and kind of like market to them. And I think anytime you can do that marketing for free, you're meeting your goals. And so like it's a key strategic piece that they need to take.
I think there's this big piece too of I've been talking up this whole joke about like I really wish that I could just spend a week and either fly all of the old guard FoW players or just like teleport to each of them and just sit them down and play a game of like current era FoW to help them see that like it's still not OG FoW, but like the game is more and more starting to feel like what enticed me about this game in terms of game feel, right? Like pacing wise and interaction wise and creativity wise and diversity wise. Like it's starting to feel like it's still in the new era in terms of like what power curve looks like or stuff like that. But in terms of the flexibility of deck building, the creativity, how long games go and everything else, the feel of games themselves, just like has really been recapturing me lately. Like like not that I haven't been captured, but you get what I mean. Like it's rekindling some of those like old vibes that I've had with FoW for the longest time. And I really just want to like take my cards and sit down with old FoW players and be like, look, you don't have to own any cards. Just sit down and try this with me and tell me like what your experience is like with it nowadays, right? Because I honestly think a lot of them would really love it. Again, like it's back to what like really enticed us about it. I mean, Mike's still here and he hasn't played the game in a very long time, but I bet if I got Mike to actually sit down and play a game with current cards, I'd start getting Mike to buy cards again. I genuinely believe that.
There's a pretty solid chance of that.
Right. Like it pay Jeremy $100 in a hotel room. This man will personally rep the game from the floor of Gen Con. Yes, absolutely. Sign me up, man. Like I will say that one of my talks, one of the things that I'm hoping to talk about with I Spy in Japan is starting up convention rep again. Like being able to go to conventions and like show the game off again to people, because just like there's this piece of so many people that I know talk about like they just have the game has just stopped being in their frame of view, right? And like that's the thing that keeps them from being engaged, is that it just hasn't been. And usually when I like talk to them about what the game state is like, they're like, wow, wait a minute, I'm curious, I'm interested. And then usually a lot of them come back and say like, wow, this has been great again. So it's just like getting it back in people's eyes is just been the thing that I want. And I feel like I also have some connections that I could probably try to leverage at the con scene to at least like, not to get a booth per se, but just to like have a presence and be like, hey, you would try this game out. But you know, it's just one of those things about making it clear that the game is still here seems to be like the big hurdle. Because most people, it's not that they try the game and don't like it, it's that they don't have an opportunity to try the game. Like that's the big hiccup, right? And so, you know, I have plans, I have hopes.
Oh my gosh. Sounds insane. I love that. Cruz Ballesta Mooj Ancient Impact OTK with
the Ghost in the Shellstones and Raging Messiah.
Yeah, that sounds so lit. I love that.
That is insane.
I'll jump on that to Ruler School conventions. Be fun. Hey man, Dan, if you want to bankroll me traveling to conventions and repping this game, let's go. Let's do it.
If I'm bankrolled, I'll do the same. I don't care.
Mike will show up.
I'll show up.
and play FoW with me. I seriously think that if I hand Mike the right deck in the current environment, like what ruler do I think? That's the question for the night. What ruler do we think we would give to Mike Rance to fully and truly hook him back into buying cards at the level he was buying cards when he was in his heyday? Let me think about this.
I'm trying to remember what decks Mike likes
Combo
outside
decks.
of Brego TK.
I wasn't even a combo deck guy. That's the problem. I'm a mid-range
that's
player
true.
at heart.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just play Prego TK.
I honestly,
know
I
you
want to see.
to
I want to say
play.
Funf. I honestly want to say Funf. I feel like I could hand Mike a Funf deck and he would just like go insane.
Oh, Mike would love
saying
Hyde.
Hyde. Ooh.
Hyde as well. Yeah, Hyde as well. I
that's-
think.
Yeah, that's
Those are the
absolutely the
two.
pick.
Playing Ushina,
Hyde,
yeah, Hyde.
maybe Olga. I could see Olga being a fan.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what the fuck Olga does, dude. I just know that Olga looks
Control
like
deck.
He makes sword. He makes Gundam, and Gundam say, "I never move again."
that sounds so boring. I hate Protect the Castle.
Yeah,
I'll just play Dark Law
Hyde.
and Yu-Gi-Oh if I want that.
Yeah, he'd play Hyde. He'd be a Hyde player for sure.
Damn, everybody's saying Hyde.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it feels very.
say Hyde.
She's very mid-rangey. Yeah, she's very mid-rangey.
All right, now quick question.
I tell you what, though, you're coming to Worlds, so like
I am.
I can hand you a Hyde deck. At
Hand
Worlds
me a
and, like,
Hyde deck.
Play
I'll-
this. Like,
Give him a Veer
play
deck.
this.
Shut up, Eris. Eris, shut up.
There's too much
I'm
blue
not
in
playing.
your deck.
I'm not playing Mermaid.
I guess I should ask Mike. Do you have Have you figured out your place to stay for Worlds yet?
Nope.
Awesome.
I need to talk to the representative who's handling that side of things. Hey, Jeremy, what's happening?
That's not me. That's not me.
Oh.
I don't have that kind of control. I'm sorry.
Rip.
I bet if we take
his
Mike's invite away, he would play. Yeah, Mike would probably come back to GPs if we told him his invite was invalid.
No, it's valid. It's definitely valid. It's gotta be valid.
crap! Absolutely.
Yeah, but like that's just the biggest, the biggest hurdle right now is just like showing people. Like I find that the biggest hurdle right now is having opportunities to play the game with new people. Right? That's the biggest,
that's real.
That's the biggest piece. Because most of the time, if you get a new person to play, I don't think I've ever had a person walk away. Let me rephrase this.
Go ahead.
I don't think I've ever had a person who was genuinely interested in trying a new game, like giving it a good faith effort, ever walk away from doing a demo of FoW saying, no, this game's not for me. Is that fair?
Yeah. I think the only resistance I ever find from people who want to play FoW is that, well, I'm already into X game, and so I can't really take on another one. Which kind of leads into something I was wanting to say, because I had to sit down and think about the game from a very different perspective when I was trying to think, like, how do I get new players to join our locals in Ionia? And just thinking, like, what do new players need to feel like they can play the game and do so easily, but also not feel like they have to, like, put out, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to play a fun deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's been the main deterrent that I've heard from newer players is I don't know what's good, and I don't know how to buy cards that are good without breaking the bank, right?
Sure.
So I think between, like, access to the game, there's also the question of, like, what makes this game fun, because it is a Magic-like game.
Mm-hmm.
It's I would say a fine-tuned Magic-like game. It's the best version of that system that'll ever exist as far as I'm concerned. But I wanna figure out, like, what is it that makes FoW more special than that, right? Because there's something more about FoW, like, in my head and in my experience that I just can't, like, articulate. Like, there's something more than just better mana system interaction, right? Like, there's something more there.
Yeah, for sure.
Game's faster too.
Yeah, I think part of it is there's something about the flow of FoW's game state that I think even psychologically just makes sense and feels comfortable, right? It's very like the game itself can be very like complicated, yes, because the chase gets very complicated with how FoW is structured, but also like very intuitive. Like it, you're too deep in FoW to play another game. Yeah, for sure. It's just a piece of like even when I talk to people about combat, new players about combat, I'm just like, you're sending one thing in at a time. And if the thing that you're like, if something tries to block you and you kill the thing that blocks, you're going to get to hit the thing you were going for first. People are like, oh, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's just like weird nuances of Magic that don't really make a lot of sense. Of like combat, I'm going to swing my whole army at once and I'm going to weirdly assign damage. Or like I'm going to swing my whole army at
Here you
once
go.
for this grand total of damage, and then I'm going to weirdly assign blocks in such a way.
I
and
turn
then
my board
manipulate
sideways.
it.
I think my favorite thing about Magic's combat system is how you turn your board sideways and then you let your opponent think for about 6 to 7 minutes, and then eventually they figured out exactly how they want to block everything.
Yeah, and how to like manipulate the blocks with like
Very
shadow blocking
interactive.
and double blocking, and like it's just like real combat doesn't look like that. Like that's not. It's real combat isn't just math. You know what I mean? Like, and so the flow of even FoW combat like makes a lot
80s
of
rock
sense.
ballad, you say, Paul.
I
can make that happen.
I've heard it said that FoW takes the things that are confusing or irritating about the structure of Magic and fixes it. And so that's also like you don't feel like the structure of FoW doesn't feel impeding. Like in FoW, I can do the things that I want to do, and I don't feel inhibited in being able to do the things that I want to do. Does that make sense?
I think we're getting closer.
Yeah.
It's like what like
I don't think that's all of it, but I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm trying to figure out like what that is and distill it down to like a sentence that like connects with players that are looking for something specific, right? Because I honestly I don't like comparing the game to Magic because it sort of says, well, then I have to stop being a Magic player to a lot of people,
Sure.
which isn't true, but I mean that's what they hear, right? I have to stop being a
Right.
Magic player. And so I'm like, do you like doing X, right? And just having that thing be very distinct and very different than what Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or Duel Masters does, and just being able to say this game lets you do that. So I'm just, what is that thing, right?
Yeah. And I think when it first came out, part of FoW's identity was the IP, right? In terms of the like, do you want to play a game that has Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, Little Red Riding Hood, The Grimm Fairy Tales, stories told in 1001 Nights? Like there was a lot of like, oh, that's stuff that I recognize. That's an IP that I can connect with. That's a vibe. That'll be really cool. But like we're 8 years past that at this point, right? So like we can't really lean on that as much anymore. Because in conversation with newer players, because like that's not what the current IP structure is. Like we still have Alice, we still have Kai, like they're still like mainstay characters, but they're not like the central piece right now. And right now in Hero Cluster, we don't have any of that, right? It's pure new.
Yeah. It's like its own IP at this point. And
yeah.
I think if that's what drew players in at first, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But I didn't stay for the IP. You know what I mean? Like I was like, notably, and Jeremy can attest to this, I was not sold on FoW for the longest time, right?
Correct.
Like I played the game.
I 2.5 years I worked on getting this man to go in.
Like I said, give me a deck, I'll play the game. I just need to play card games with my best friend. And that was back when SKL came out and the dual decks were a thing. And it took me 2.5 years to like really say like, oh, this is my game. And I'm just trying to figure out like what that was for me.
Yeah.
And like see if like other players are like, oh yeah, that's the thing. That's what makes FoW, right? Because then I could sell it, right? I could say like, this is the game for you if you like this.
Yeah. I think for me, FoW just has always felt like, it's weird to say like home, but like FoW has always felt like home as a card game player, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
my comfort. It's like my comfort game, where there's very few things that I have about FoW that I dislike. Like, the things over FoW's, the course of FoW's history that I disliked were things that were more on the company side versus the game side. And so it felt like those were things that I could work around by like the people that I played with and just being communicative. I didn't ever really have a, I think that's one thing, to be honest, is I've played Kaijudo, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh. Those have been like my main ones, but I know of Magic players. There's always an element of conversation that comes when talking about those games that's like a players versus the company mindset, and like getting upset at what the company is doing, and like that also influences your like vibe of how much you're enjoying the game. Kaijudo, it was that you killed my game. And that really like put a damper on my spirits, right?
Yeah.
But like Yu-Gi-Oh is like, there's so much of Konami, which is just like, why am I continuing to pay you? Like the enjoyment I get out of the game does not justify the money that I'm giving to Konami with the stupid things that they're doing.
Yeah.
But even the complaints that I've had about Falco or I Spy in either position has been far outweighed by just like my enjoyment of the game, and it hasn't felt like a barrier to me to enjoy their game, which that's also a piece of it too. Like it's just felt like I can always come back to FoW and always have a good time, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't know. There's like not a risk. I guess I should say there's not a risk to enjoying FoW for me. Like there's never really felt like there's a risk in trying to enjoy FoW. Just processing. We're having a therapy session right now. Just processing the world. Break out my LPC. Just like hang up. Jeremy's a licensed professional FoW therapist.
I'm curious as to like maybe I've heard this wrong in the past when you've talked about this with us, Mike, but like when you made your card game, there was something about FoW sort of inspiring that, because I remember you saying something similar to like, if I were to make a game, I would do this a little bit differently.
Yep.
And so there was almost like a jumping off point. I'm curious to know, like, I don't know, maybe you have an answer. I don't have an answer right now.
Like as far as what kind of so what's the
what is it about FoW to you that has made it such a game that you've like found a home with, that you've enjoyed, that has like stuck with you for so long, to the point where you're, even after not having played it for so long, you're still on a FoW podcast on a weekly basis?
Yeah. Like what is the essence of Force of Will that is fundamentally different, that is still enjoyable, that makes you want to be on a podcast?
Dude, it's always community. That's the biggest thing. Because I think the biggest thing about FoW is like, it's not like Magic where you can go anywhere, somebody will bring out like a commander deck and you just play a game and you just kind of throw down. It's like, whatever, sure, I have a commander deck, I can play with you. With FoW, the extra work you put in always feels like it's giving that extra mileage out of it. It's not a game that could just sell itself. It's not a game that everybody knows. It's not a game that, you know, gets cultural references the way that Magic does. But at the same time, like, Magic has, I'm going to just keep referencing Magic because it's like, you know, the big one and the closest FoW equivalent. But at the same time, it's a FoW equivalent that has a 30-year span on it. It's literally been alive longer than I have. And it's like, coming into it, it's just such a huge undertaking to learn the game. Like, I have friends that want to get me to play Commander, and it's like, all right, cool. Well, I don't know what to do. And it's like, well, you have to have this table, this table, this table, and this game, and this commander is like this, and you have to do it this way. And it's like, with FoW, it's just like, this is probably the optimal deck, but you can switch up like 3 to 5 cards in that deck and make it your own, and it's fun still. Like, there's no real, like, there's no optimal play, and there's no, like, onus on the player to learn how to be the best at the game, because the game isn't big enough to where people are able to, like, I don't know, tell you how to do things right. Nobody's going to tell you how to do things right. So it'll just maybe switch one card for another card, but at the end of the day, if your deck is built to do something and it does that, then like nobody's going to stop you in this game. It's not big enough to where it's like, I'm going to shark the hell out of you. And like, no, nobody does that here.
Even at like the height of its popularity, when we had like 300 plus man GPs,
Yeah.
that wasn't what people were doing.
Right.
And you had decks that were in top 8 that were just like, wait, what? Like one of the first GPs, the Chicago GP year 1 that I judged, the winning deck was just like cats. Just like Thomas and Check
Jeremy,
cats. That
somebody,
was
Derek
it was just like,
played
wow, this deck is so different
Jeremy,
than what anyone else was playing, and it was just like dope. Like this man just really wanted to play cats.
Didn't you tell me that Derek played Seth the Arbiter?
Logan Moses played Seth.
Logan Moses played. I forget who it was. I didn't watch.
Yeah.
Anyway, that shit's crazy to me. Somebody would have told me that they put Seth the Arbiter in their deck, and I'd be like, you're stupid. Why did you put this card from 10 years ago in your deck? And it's like, oh, by the way, it's the centerpiece. And I'm like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. To go to Eris's comment, yeah, I think one of the best things we've seen from FoW after I felt like there were so many wrong turns and missteps coming from FoWco into iSpy, end of NV and AO, they stepped up and actually listened to the feedback and took necessary steps to try to realign themselves with the community. Yeah, and I feel that, like, that's the thing to me, is I feel that on every decision that's being made, right? There doesn't seem to me recently, within the past like year and a half, there just truly does not seem to have been any decision that's made that I cannot feel that the community was considered in some way, that I can't feel that. Like I can feel in every decision that's come out that clearly they were thinking about and listening to what was being chatted about in the community. Now, hopefully part of that is the fact that I am listening to the community constantly and funneling that up to them. Right? But you also hope that like they're also paying attention independently of what they're hearing from me. And I think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, from the combination ban lists to the set product things to these new box packs to these new promo campaigns to GPs to monthly promos to bringing back webcam events again to doing online events to doing worlds, like to doing the YouTube videos and really leaning into like the meme culture and like just the jokes and it like not being super serious all the time. Like there's something that feels like they are very much in line and understanding who the community is in a way that is just like no other card game I've ever played has done that. Even Kaijudo. I mean, Kaijudo, like I would argue, did have a very strong community connection, but it was still very like business driven. Like you could see the decisions were being made based on a financial standpoint. And like, I just don't get that vibe. Like it truly feels like it's about the community and just making the game the best for the people that are playing it, which is great.
It's so I'll postulate this, right? The Force of Will is a game that when you play it, you realize the creators of the game love the game as much as you do.
Yeah.
Whereas like other card games, like there might be passionate people in place making those decisions, right? The creation decisions. But it's like the whole company is like, no, we want this thing to succeed. And you can feel that in every card you play. And I've never felt that. I felt it pretty strongly in Kaijudo because I think that R&D team like really did care, right? They took a lot of care in designing that game. But at the end of the day, it was just like a Hasbro slap it off because it didn't succeed sort of thing. It's just sort of amputated, whereas this card game like has a internal desire, like, no, this is our game, we wanted to see it, we want to see it through, which makes it feel almost like an indie video game in some senses, right?
We're an indie video game card game. That's the vibe. That's the vibe. And you might have
just like Blizzard, small indie developer.
You might have actually stumbled onto the thing there is because like you might have actually stumbled onto what can be kind of described like messaging wise is like it's instead of putting it in the lane of like, oh, it's a tier 2 card game, like now it feels like an indie developed card game and it's got that same kind of passion behind it as like an indie developed game where like it's not about the dollars and cents, it's just, I mean, like, obviously it's important to raise the money and like be able to make sales, but it's still so much driven by just like making it be a passion project. That might be part of
Yeah.
the kind of like drive for it.
Yeah.
Season
Meta
2 Private
relevant
Set.
normal rares. Absolutely.
Look at the Kilo spell. Jeez Louise, I have so many of that card just sitting in my box because it's going to be relevant forever. The sad fact is that stores and players point out FoW's mistakes, which other games have done as well, but have yet just been forgiven, just hypocritical. So that's what I mean in the sense of like my drive to try to really just sit down with old school FoW players and like help them see that like we've moved beyond the mistakes of the past, right? Give them an opportunity to see that has been kind of one of the biggest hurdles. Yeah, and like when people are like, oh, this game died in MOA, I'm like, bruh, MOA is 7 clusters ago.
I have a
Grim,
10th anniversary set in my closet.
Alice, Lapis, Rhea, New
Playing
Valhalla,
after MOA,
Alice
like-
Origins, Saga, Duel,
Hero
and
cluster.
now Hero. We are in the 8th cluster post MOA. Like,
Yeah.
stop it. Like, let go. Like, don't get me wrong. We understand that MOA was what it was. We can move on. The number of times I hear that quoted to me, it's like, oh, MOA killed the game.
We're in
Or you
cluster
could
9.
let go, or you could let go of that and try the game again, because we're still here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dan could
learned-
talk at you for hours about trading card games.
Yeah, so Yink, yeah, in FoW, the bad decisions are usually not even financially good, like the H1, H2 contract ratio. That and listening to the community and fixing like this, stuff like this shows you everything. Yeah, I mean, like, again, this is 2 clusters in a row, or not 2 clusters in a row, because it happened with Saga cluster and then with Dual cluster, or Hero cluster, where like a decision in regards to printing structure was negatively received, and before that cluster was over, the problem was fixed in a
Mhm.
way that like not only improved for future sets, but corrected the mistake of the previous set, right? Like Rebirth of Legend got the market flooded with set 1 rulers again, but immediately in set 2 and set 3 and set 4 we had better pull rates for rulers, right? Hero cluster set 1 and set 2 had bad pull rates for contracts, but set 3 had insanely boosted pull rates for contracts and the contract packs to fix set 2 and set 1. Like those kinds of things about being able to say, yep, we goofed up, we're going to put in the work to be able to fix it, is just like the consistency there has just been awesome. And foresight too with regards to like the combination ban list. I tell you what, I don't get any information about the ban list in advance.
That sounds like somebody who gets knowledge about the ban list in advance would say.
I don't legitimately don't. I try to share things up to the company during spoiler season that the community is talking about as like concerning things, but I am just as much on the hook as everybody else in terms of like wondering what it's going to be. And I will say these past few ban lists have had some moments leading up to them where I was scared that something wouldn't get caught because it was something so new, and they've caught it both times. The past ban list was Painter's Gears plus Back to Nature. That was the thing that I was concerned about right out the gate. When that was spoiled, I was like, that's a problem, and I really don't want that to exist. And then this newest one was Ainz and Raging Messiah, and I was just like, I hope they ban it. I hope that gets hit. I'm on the fence, and then they do it, and like that to me is just another credence of like clearly paying attention so much more than ever before. So
Yeah, that's 100% correct, Dan. A good company is based on how they, I'm going to say, respond to their mistakes,
right.
as opposed to the mistakes themselves. Yeah, I mean, God, we could talk about how Yu-Gi-Oh has made so many freaking mistakes, and it's still making a lot of the same mistakes.
Yeah, it's just like now we're just gonna keep
Doesn't
doing it.
care because people just keep buying their cards.
If players don't learn, the company doesn't either.
That's real.
Yeah,
That's
for
real.
sure. Rustin, good point. The fact that they are running with bonus packs now too. That's the interesting thing, is they've almost used the correction to a mistake and then said, okay, we've proven we can do something. Now, how can we continue to use this to our benefit, right?
Mhm.
These Memoria reprint packs, I would put money on that it was never a thought until they tried out this contract reprint pack. Right? Like that to me felt like a very big like test of a system. And then they showed how successful it was. And they were like, okay, we've got this. How can we use it again to benefit? And now we have this reprint pack. Like always innovating, not necessarily innovating, but always like building on previous good work in a way that I think continues to give them credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want more people to know. I just want more people to know and try
Give this
it.
man a room at Gen Con.
Just let me... Give me a room at Gamma. Can I have a room at Gamma? Just go message the new president, who is the guy who runs Japanime Games. He's the new president of Gamma, and be like, yo, give me a booth. It's not even sponsored by the company. It's just me. It's just Jeremy Franklin talking about Force of Will at Gamma all weekend.
Just has a microphone and a Force of Will t-shirt, table, black tablecloth. Hi, I'm Jeremy Franklin. I'm going to talk to you about this game. There's no signs.
Just have a banner of like, let's talk. I have a one screen rolling the how to play Force of Will and how to start playing Force of Will 2023 video on a loop, and it's just me standing next to that for of Gamma. Just be like, come talk to me about this game.
No, Jeremy, you know, like the psychologist is inside from Peanuts. It's literally just foul player is 5 cents.
5 cents. It's like. Don't like tell people to come up to me at all. Just like sit there. Just
What are your problems with other TCGs?
Yeah, what are your problems with other TCG? I am a licensed therapist, so like maybe I could.
It seems that they all stemmed from when you cracked your first MTG pack, and you got the sweet taste of
Sculptor make you feel? How does that connect to your past? Maybe your childhood. Jace the Mind Sculptor. Yeah.
Have you heard the good word about FoW? Just a FoW Hove as witness.
The FoW missionary. Extreme.
FoW missionary.
You heard of our Lord and Savior?
I wish I could go to Gamma this year, to be honest, but it's not. The last weekend of April is just not gonna be possible for me.
Yeah, CCG Prime opening it up.
Too. Yeah.
I'll go.
I can't.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to go to Gamma.
I'm a little
can't, man. I got anxiety.
I'm sure that Svetlana and Landon are probably going to Gamma too. But it's just like, do you have a bad? Show me on this deck list where the TCG hurt you. It's just.
It's this card. It's the limit 1 card that they always draw. I know. It's okay. A lot of people feel that way.
Oh wow, my keyboard.
Like they post to the Wizards of the Coast like a logo. It's like, I get it. I understand.
Let's talk about that. Let's unpack that. Oh my gosh.
Tell me, have things been since your breakup with Darby Coif? That's right. That's funny.
There in the story today.
Steven, you can't just say that. Come on.
The man who single-handedly advocated for Sherry to come off the ban list.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, we got a few minutes left. So if anyone else has any kind of other questions or thoughts that they'd like us to kind of hit up here as we close out, I will say, please, as a reminder, to please get signed up for the Discord event this Saturday.
Please.
We are going to, if we don't have enough people to like fire it, I'm gonna refund the money to the people who signed up, and it just won't fire. Like, So like we do need people to sign up.
Yeah.
We have a good number right now, but like we could use more for sure. Because like it's supposed to be a fundraiser, and if I don't have enough people signed up, I'm actually losing money on printing and shipping these playmats. So like that doesn't serve the purpose. And so you'll be refunded, and we'll try again later.
Oh,
So just
well,
give a heads up.
ask me what cards you want me to have a hot take about.
Sure. And then because we're on spring break this week, there is not going to be a feature match this week. We're taking the week off.
Oh my god.
Enjoying the break. And it's not at all because Paul forgot a tripod and doesn't know how Reign of Serpents works. It's not at all because of that.
Exactly. Or
Correct.
how melody works.
Or how melody works. It's not at all because of that.
Definitely not.
Melody starting after the turn.
Purely specifically because it's spring break and we don't want to worry about it.
Does Melody last for the rest of the game?
I love you, buddy. I love you, buddy. So.
Oh wait, my opinion on Metazoo. I really love Ken Sugimori's rejected drawings from the early 1990s in a card game. It's very cool.
How many rounds are we thinking this weekend? It's probably going to be like 4 or 5, I imagine, based on current kind of like estimated attendance.
Rustin thought I forgot, but he asked me a question a long time ago.
Which is?
What's the April JP going to be if it were a sandwich? And
Which is?
I already
I'd
answered
probably say like hummus and sprouts and maybe a few bell peppers, like that kind of sandwich, just like on some like tomato basil like bread, maybe toasted.
Very hearty.
Yeah, like hearty. You know, it's meant to fill you up. It's meant to help you feel like, you know, like good and not like heavy, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what the GP is gonna be because it's in April. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be online. It's gonna be chill.
Paul.
People are gonna properly respect Hyde.
Yeah.
You sweet summer child, Paul. You clearly don't know that it's a peanut butter and fluffernutter sandwich.
That is what you said.
It is what I said, and it's right.
Add bananas and we'll be there. Give me bananas.
Bananas?
Give me bananas on the fluffernutter.
If it was just peanut butter and bananas, I'd get it. And the fluffernutter and the banana, I don't know, man. That's a little too rich for my blood.
My opinion on Metazoo is that I think it was very
changing the subject.
Yeah, for sure, because it's a sandwich conversation, so you know that that's what it is. So my opinion on
give your
Metazoo,
sandwich take.
Correct. My opinion on Metazoo is that, to me, it was very clearly designed as a concept and a product to be transactionally manipulative of the player base in a way that I think is predatory, and I refuse to give that any kind of encouragement. The fact that you tell me that booster boxes, I obviously already hate Kickstarter exclusive booster boxes. Like, I think that's incredibly predatory. I think it's very, very wrong. And the fact that booster boxes were true random. So you can literally have a box that has like nothing of high value or nothing of high rarity in it. Like, that is a possibility. Absolutely not. Like, I refuse to respect that from a company perspective. Like, that's just not respectful of your player base. That's looking for cash.
Speaking of cash,
and then outside of that, the fact that a premiere, there's a fun of Metazoo of like, oh, you can play it with like this ARG style where it's like, your real world around you can affect the game, and I'm like, that's a cute angle, but then you actually brought that into a tournament. Like, they used that rule set allowing for those kinds of interactions in a tournament. I'm like, okay, well, that completely throws off, in my mind, the legitimacy of like the competitive environment or your respect for the competitive environment. And so that's like 3 strikes and you're out of like, you're not at that point in time, you're not making a TCG, you're selling loot boxes to make money that looks like a TCG. And I don't respect it.
Wait, Holshaz just asked my opinion on the new Battle Spirit sagas. Here's my opinion on it. If you need extra little like token peripherals for your game, I'm not playing it.
Opinion on new game. My opinion on the new game Battle Spirit Saga is it failed 14 years ago when it was tried to be released in the United States, and it's gonna probably fail now. if your main I don't say this. If your main attraction to try to get new players, if your main advertising point, in my opinion, to try to get new players into a game, with an unrecognizable IP, like in terms of like just there's nothing standouty about it, is look at how much money we're gonna give you as a chance to play the game. You're not breeding a community of people who are invested in the game. You're breeding a community of people who want your money. And that's again an environment that
Literally
I choose to not.
The opposite of what you need to do to sell product in a game where you need to make money in order to print the
that's
cards.
That to me is not a community that I would want to get involved in. Don't get me wrong. I can understand being motivated to play a game and interested in a game and being very excited about there being prizing. I don't think what I see from Battle Spirits is that people are interested in the game and also hyped about prizing. I think they talk about Battle Spirits purely from a perspective of look at all this prizing, and I don't think that's a foundation for a good like core.
Mm-hmm.
So
didn't Keyforge do that? Yes, and Keyforge is just kind of there. It just exists. You can buy a deck if you want it.
It was Forge.
It sure was.
It's like so many of these like card games would be awesome if they just were like LCGs, right? Like they just like if they were just games that existed unto themselves and just like released expansions like board games, right?
I mean, because like to talk about Keyforge is literally trying to crowdfund its set 3. Like
that's not good.
Someone like tried. I think someone like got the rights or whatever to the like algorithm or whatever, and then tried to like crowdfund the next set, and I don't think it was successful. So
it was fun to like get a deck and play it at your locals once, and that's it. I remember doing that.
I'm not a huge fan of I Go You Go games when I'm playing against a person of the same mind as like same like age and like mental level as me. I don't like I Go You Go games. Let me rephrase that. I don't like I Go You Go games when you and I aren't using the exact same resources, right? Like I enjoy chess, I enjoy backgammon, I enjoy board games that are I Go You Go because you and I are inherently working with the same resources within a set confine of rules. Right? I don't like I Go You Go where you and I are operating on different functions and different sets of rules.
That's even worse
because of what we brought to the table. If we're both intellectually kind of like on the same level. Now, I will play the Pokemon TCG with a small child, and I will understand why I need to play an I Go You Go game with that small child, and I will be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to play Lorcana with my daughter because she wants to play the Disney card game, and that will be an I Go You Go game, and I will be okay with it. Mm-hmm. But I don't choose to like invest in I Go You Go games. And from my understanding, Battle Spirits is closer to an I Go You Go game. So,
if you don't want to play an I Go You Go game, you can play Force Will or Convergence.
Hey, I have a nice backgammon set if you're interested. If you want to mail it to me as a gift, I will take it. Because I could use a nice backgammon set. Or give it to Paul on Saturday, and then he can bring it to me, so I can have a nice backgammon set. Hey.
Oh my god, Digimon's adding hand traps? Why?
Oh.
Yeah.
For Yink, I don't like... Yink, my point for Digimon is I hate the Chrono Clash system. I've tried to play the Chrono Clash system. I hate it. So, that's my... What has this turned into? It's turned into why don't you play any other game? I don't like the Chrono Clash system. I tried it with Chrono Clash. I tried it with Naruto. I looked at Digimon and went nope, because I have no interest in it.
I think the only way I can like stand at I Go You Go is when it's online, and that's it. Because like I don't hate simplified game states or game rules. I don't hate that. I think it takes a lot of mental energy off of me to not have to interact with my opponent to some degree.
Yeah.
So like when I'm watching TV, I play the Pokemon TCG, right? It's fun. Same thing with Master Tool and Tool things. It's just
Legend of Runeterra. Legend of Runeterra had me for a while until they broke the game several times over and still haven't fixed it. Or at least from what I've been told. They introduced a single player version, and I'm like, cool. I'll play the single player game.
Just make more LCGs. That's where I'm at.
I tried Shadowverse once.
LCG.
I played Shadowverse once and didn't understand it.
It's a game
I played it for a bit, and I was just like, it feels like nothing I do matters. Because whatever I do, my opponent just always has the thing to be better than what I'm doing.
Oh, of course, because they have the legendary or golden card that you can play 3 of, and it's just the centerpiece of the deck, and when you draw it in your first 5 turns, you win the game. That's how that kind of went. I just remember playing Big Booba Lady, and it was fun. Anyway, continue on.
This has turned into a very interesting end of this conversation.
We should end this conversation by talking about how people should play conversions
on the Card Game Podcast.
But we should
card games on the Card Game Podcast.
But we should finish with the best card game other than Force of Will, which is Convergence, which you should talk to me about.
I can't say that it's the best. I can't say it's the best card game because I haven't played it yet.
You've refused to play it because of the handline system, but that's fine. Anyway, continue.
I didn't refuse to play it because of the handline system. I just said
you didn't want
a copy of it.
Oh yeah, obviously.
I said
no.
I'm not motivated to acquire a copy of it from you. Bring it to Worlds, my guy. I'll play.
I will.
With
you know I will.
Hell yeah, I'll do it.
Argent was as good as a mana-based Yu-Gi-Oh clone could be.
And also,
so
I'm gonna say something about Argent Saga.
It had problems.
Go for it.
It had problems. I think the biggest one is that you shouldn't use a keyword in a 2-player not Igo Yugo game where you need that keyword to block. I think that half the units were just useless because they were everything was very one-dimensional, which is I think the biggest problem that the game had.
I will say that Argent Saga as a core game structure, because it was not an Igo Yugo, there were ways to be able to interact with your opponent with stuff that was in your hand during their turn. Yeah. There were priority sequences.
No, that's what I meant, like a non-Igo Yugo game.
Yeah. So there's that. I think at its core was a good concept. I think what damaged Argent was not properly respecting card design and not properly respecting the game structure that they had created, because they created, and also not properly respecting the process of designing a game. I think that there were a lot of elements that it seemed very quickly to be driven very quickly not by let's make a good game, and were very clearly driven by other things, a lot of different things that I'm not going to delve into, out of respect for the people who were involved. But that is what led to that game's collapse. It became very abusable very quickly, and it very much opened itself to how did this card make sense to the designers to allow into the game space. Like a lot, and not just once. Like that problem kept happening, and so it just kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah, that's fair.
So.
I'm sure he will tell you all about it, Dan.
Jeremy, I can't
tell you.
Jeremy, I can't.
When we do the convergence podcast, where we're just gonna purely talk about convergence, I'm just gonna have Dan and Mike host the entire podcast. So just like go.
Jeremy, I can't put links in chat, can
I? You should be able to.
Do like a Bitly or an Owly, and you should be good.
Whatever. It's there if it shows up. It's not hyperlinked, but you can just like copy paste it.
Check it out.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, please check it out. That's my card game site.
Box of the Mega Man TCG.
I think I have Kingdom Hearts TCG cards still somewhere.
That's pretty dope.
Damn.
Yeah, I bought
Old
those packs
school.
for $1 a pack.
It was like the
Yeah.
it was like the Chain of Memories art, right? Like that was pretty
Yeah,
dope.
it was pretty neat. Anyway,
Yay, it works.
thank you all so much for joining us. As always, I have been DMO73, and I have been joined by the wonderful Mike Rants.
Please look at that link. I'm trying to make this game happen. Please just look at it. It's very similar to FoW and Magic and things like that. You'll love it.
And Paul Reisman.
Play card games and have fun, but most of all, enjoy Force of Will.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And until next time, class dismissed.